So why are Class B vans so expensive? I mean, a lot of them are more than a Class C, which is bigger. And honestly, there's a few Class Bs that are even more than a gas Class A, which is much bigger. Well, stick with me and I'll break it down to help you understand how something so small can have a price tag so large. The first thing you have to understand is simply the cost difference in the chassis itself, right? Logically, it makes sense that an entire van chassis, which is used in a Class B, is more expensive than a cutaway chassis used for a Class C, right? It's like a whole car versus a half car. If, for example, we look at the Mercedes-Benz 3500 high-output diesel chassis, the crew van, which is like the whole thing, that 3500 is about $10,000 more than the cutaway chassis right out the gate. And while $10,000 is certainly nothing to sneeze at, believe it or not, the biggest factor when looking at the price tag of Class B is the production space constraints. You see, in nearly every other RV type out there, when installing plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and everything else that has to go into a home on wheels, there's so much more room. Heck, generally, even all the cabinetry is installed before the walls are even put on. And a lot of times in those RVs, you can have 5 or 6 people working in that same RV at the same time. In a Class B, it's just not an option. It's much smaller space to work in, and honestly, you're probably only getting 2 to 3 people inside working at any given time. This means the labor and production costs are going to be exponentially higher in a Class B because they just take so much longer to build. And not only are there production space constraints, but there's also RV space constraints, which are going to add to the cost. For example, a lot of the Class B vans use a system like the Truma water heater and furnace combo because installing a separate water heater and furnace takes up a lot of valuable space. But that single Truma system is more expensive than having a separate water heater and furnace combined. The same situation for a power sofa, right? Because the limited interior space, a fixed bed just isn't going to happen. It's just not a viable option. So a lot of manufacturers will use a power sofa, which is nice and easy to drop down into a bed, especially in that smaller space, but it's also stupid expensive compared to a lot of other options. And this kind of leads to the last piece of the puzzle, which is the fact that most Class B floor plans have unique pieces and parts that may only be used in one layout. The power sofa, for example. Maybe the manufacturer can use them in a few floor plans, but there's a good chance they'll also need a twin bed layout and a rear bath layout. And again, those twin beds and that rear bath shower pan and the rear hookup station will possibly only be used in a single floor plan. Same for a lot of the interior door panels. They're specific to each individual floor plan. Because of this, your economies of scales are naturally going to be reduced and the individual pieces just become more expensive. So as you can see, it's not necessarily one glaring reason that Class B vans are so expensive, but it's more a number of smaller factors that just simply add up. However, if you're looking for an easy to drive motorhome that gets pretty great fuel economy and has everything you need in a small footprint, well, you just may find a Class B is well worth the price. Thanks for watching, folks. I'm Ian Baker, and until next time, we'll see you.